Hi guys. So the last presentation of the summit. So basically I want to touch one of the subtopic or research. So what we aiming for a longer term is multi-protocol. So we have various protocols working with cluster, SMB, NFS, the fuse. So to work together. So in the last presentation we saw Lee's law, so how it should work together to form, to have a multi-protocol support. So this is one of the way what we, one of the sub-feature for providing a complete multi-protocol support. So I'll be talking about which channel, what it is, and how it is going to solve the problem. So this is the agenda today. So basically I go through the Unix basic function model. Stands across what is POSIX cycle. And okay, so now we have Windows. So what is the Windows cycle? NFS side we have NFS before ACL. And then how does rich ACL fit into this? And so once we understand rich ACL, how do we take advantage of that in clusters to solve our problem? So that is the agenda today. So I think the Unix formation model, which is everybody is aware of, is basically a simple user, group, and others. These are the three classes. This is basically the POSIX one standard, where for each group we have read, write, and execute function. So you see during ls you can see the function bits. And other things is users are identified with UID, and groups are identified with GIDs. So these are the bits which you identify things. And UIDs forms a different namespace, GIDs a different namespace. They don't combine a namespace. Yes.
I mean, is stuff like the sticky bit and stuff part of the POSIX standard?
Yeah, it is there. So, okay.
Simplified version.
So, I'm just exploring some of the bits. I'm not going in details of that.
Oh, good.
So,
Just
there are
ask.
other few bits here and there. So, I just want to give a gist of, what is a basic permission model, what is a Windows permission model, how they can interoperate. There are few bits like the sticky bits and other things which we are not, right now not covering. So this basic Unix formation model is very simple to use and it's very handy, but not very flexible where you can add more control to it. So that's why the POSIX .1e ACL provide a little more control, where you can provide more details or to the access control mechanism. So in this, the ACL is basically the list of access control entries. Each entry is called ACE, and each particular entry will have a list of items which is not there in the basic permission model. So we have the owner which is already there. This is an additional thing whether we can say, okay, apart from the owner, you can provide access to so and so users. You can give the username followed by what user and what permission. So these are the basic classes, and each one can be given a read, write, and execute permission. So what is owning group? Owning group is the same as the Linux base permission. Then we have the name group, so we can give additional permissions to other groups to see and give read, write access. So another thing is the mask. So this is quite important. The mask basically decides what is the effective permission or access right once it is done. So I will explain then how it works. So and others is again similar. So apart from the user and the group, the remaining everything is in the others part. So same way we have this simple read, write, and execute permission, so there is no changes there. The ACL is divided into two parts. We call this minimal ACL and extended ACL. So minimal ACL is the basic Unix permission. So that is called the minimal ACL. Extended ACL is what the new support is added. So it is directly backward compatible. So whatever the Unix permission, it is known as the minimal ACL. So I will show you how it is. So if you can see, this is a very basic minimal ACL where you have user, group and other. So this is an example we have taken. So the owner, the user has read-write permission on the file, the group has read permission and others have only read permission. So the owner class, when you see this read-write, so that will form the bits here.
According to that, other has read access. On that,
Oh, that's a mistake.
okay, so it's a mistake, yeah? Okay.
So actually, good guess. So this is a very straightforward direct mapping. So I like to bring in now this is the minimal access control. What happens when you go to the full level? So this is the POSIX cycle. So now, apart from the user, I have given additional right the user called Joe, where I can give read-write permission to that particular user, which is not the actual user. So that is the additional part. The group is the same as read permission. Mask is so what is mask? Basically, right now the default thing is that mask is an upper bound for all the permissions required for the group. So it is read-write. So it is read-write. You can change the mask permission also. So that will effectively tell you what is the effective permission of each of the entries.
Well, yeah, it's the groups, the only group and named ACDs.
Yes.
So it spares the owner and the others.
Sorry,
It's just, let's say, the upper bound for the
yeah, it's
named
not about for
ACDs
this
and the group.
group and this group are not for this.
Yeah, right.
So I'll just explain that. So others, so this is correct here now.
Because it masks took
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
So that was a typo there. So others, you go, it will be shown. So when you see listed file, you see the permission bits directly in ls command. So you can see read-write, and the second is read-write. So when you see the center part of that, you assume that that's a group permission. So in my previous one, whatever the group permission, that is the center part in your ls command. So that when you see that, you can see, oh, this is my group permission. So groups are allowed to do so and so. But with an ACL part, group has read. But when you see here, it is not read, it is read-write and only the read-write permission. So what actually it is shown is the mask part. So that shows the upper limit. So upper limit for both the addition of the name user as well as the group. The combination of two, and it is the mask which decides what is the effective permission. So if this has read-write and let's say the user Joe has read-write and execute permission, still the mask is there. So effective permission for this particular user would be still read-write. So mask will be applied on this particular group and user, so that forms the effective one. So this is the change which user sees when you see ACL enabled. So ACLs, whenever you see ls, you can see the plus sign which just says there is an ACL. And when you have plus sign, you should whatever the group permission, you should identify that is an upper bound. So that means if other groups or the name user can have a lower permission also and higher permission also, but the effective permission is decided by the mask. So when you see get ACL call, in that it can clearly shows what is the effective permission and what is the normal permission. So that is specifically here. So this provides some more control to the user, how you can provide more access control to each file and elements. So there is another concept introduced here is called the default ACL. There are two types of ACL, normal ACL and a default default handle. So default handle is applied to the directories. That means when you have a default handle, all the childs of that particular directory will inherit the ACLs of that particular, the default ACLs provided for that particular directories. And so syntax is exactly the same, and you just need to say this is the default ACL. So a directory can have a default ACL as well as an actual ACL. ACL which is acted upon on the permission check is the actual ACL. Default is just for inheritance.
But it's only a creation of sub-objects, right?
Yeah, only the creation. So the directory's actual directory will have its own ACL. So while checking permission, you only check the actual permission. When a new entry is created, a file or a subdirectory, the default ACLs will be transferred to that. So this is the effect of this directory. When a subdirectory inherits, when you create a subdirectory inside it, so it inherits the default ACL as well as the default ACL becomes the actual ACL of the subdirectory. So so that means it's carried forward to all the subdirectories within it unless you change it specifically. Files there is no default ACL, so that means whatever the default ACL of the parent, it becomes the ACL of the file members. So this brings in a new concept which calls inheritance. So I think other ACLs also have some similar concepts. So that was the basic the POSIX ACL which we know. So now Windows has much more elaborate ACL which gives more granular control. So Windows ACL basically divided into two categories called DAPL and SACL. DAPL is the discretionary access control and the second is the system access control. So discretionary is the one where we act upon it, where we can give various access controls. System access control is basically more like audit. Suppose there is a change in something you want to notify and it will log that some access has been happened. So that is the system access control. Windows, as in Unix identify users or the groups by UIDs and GIDs. Windows is slightly different. It uses security identifiers. So this is entirely different. And users and groups are identified whether it's SID which is from the same namespace. So given an SID, you can't differentiate whether it's a user or a group. Apart from that, now we have three different types of access control entries. The POSIX default ACL controller only tells you, okay, this particular thing is allowed, this is allowed, this is allowed. There is no denying, saying don't allow this person to access this file. It's always an allow access. So Windows has more control where you can say, okay, you have an allow list, you can have, okay, don't allow this. And also an audit. Audit is basically used with system access control list. So these are the now new things added. So I like to, so now where we had only read-write access, so Windows has much more granular control. So I just listed down a couple of them. You know what kind of changes are there, like change permissions. You can take ownership, whether you can allow to execute files, traverse the folder, list the folder. So these are all separate control where you can say, okay, don't allow this person to list the directory or this particular process. Whether you can read attributes or not, whether you can read the extended attributes or not, read permissions. So there are Windows has nearly 14 list. So like creation files, attributes, delete subfolders, and delete. So delete subfolder means can you able to delete the subfolder or can you delete the existing entry. So you can have much more granular way. So Windows is using this particular thing. So now the problem with us is that Windows has much more elaborate access control list, which now in cluster, which should work on top of a cluster, which only supports POSIX, which is very minimal. And so that means, so Windows has to take care of all the access control. But when we talk about interoperability between NFS and this, since there is no common place, we cannot interrupt these permissions with that. So I'll explain that a little later. So some more properties of Windows cycle is that in Windows the ACL order matters. Reason being now is we not only have allow, we have denies. So if the deny comes earlier, so we might take a different decision. So we need to order our ACL in such a manner that the result is a correct result. And it also introduces few more special SIDs like everyone. In Linux we have others. In Windows we have everyone. So that's a slight difference. Means everyone means it includes even the owner as well as the group of the owner. Each ACL entries normally, like in POSIX 1.8, we've told that there is inheritance with the default ACL part. With Windows ACL, it is used, the inheritance is controlled and much more granular way, and it is controlled by flags. So various types of flags are there, like inherit as whether the files can inherit as or not, inherit folder can inherit or not, use only for inheritance, and different flags with which you can control it. So that was Windows ACL control, which is much more richer. So NFS also had ACL. NFS v3 has the POSIX ACL. So NFS v4 tried to come closer to interoperate with Windows. So that's why they brought in NFS v4 ACL, which is much more closer the way Windows ACL works. So most of the things are similar. Like all the 14 permission bits are exactly the same. So, and there are a few more added in NFS 4.1, and I think 4.1 more changes are coming. It also has similar types: allow, deny, audit. Alarm is new here, but more or less they are same. Okay, so NFS now. Windows ACL is identifies with SIDs. NFS v4 identifies the user and group with principals. It's like the Kalburous principles, if you are aware of Kalburous. So similar syntax is being used for identifying the users. So you can have a name user like that, just like the Kalburous principle. The groups are there, and there are some special principles like honor, group, everyone, the same concept as Windows. It also has an everyone, which includes both the honor as well as the group. And NFS v4 ACL also uses flags to identify the inheritance or various to control the way the ACL works. So there are a lot of similarities between NFS v4 and basically Windows ACL. So the Rich ACL brings in a bridge between these two, and so that things will work fine in Linux part. So Linux is basically, we have user IDs. Normally the Windows ACL is identified by SIDs. NFS v4 uses the principles. So Rich ACL still chooses Unix numerical IDs to identify the users and groups. As in Windows, also in NFS v4, the ACL order is very important because we have denies. Deny can change the permission. Same set of 14 permissions with as NFS v4. It also supports the 3 class honor, group, and others. Each file class is associated with a file mask. So now, since we have seen the masks in the POSIX part, it is 3 bits read, write, and execute. But in Rich ACL it is much more because we have 14 to 16 different types of permissions. So that many bits for the mask part. So you can specify the same way you specify ACLs for a normal system. So you can specify for Rich ACL also. So as I said, mask here also is an upper bound on the granted permission. So Rejackal also can support everyone instead of others, but more rules need to be added. So the plan was, the basic idea is that Samba will give support for Rejackal so that it can work correctly, and NFS-v4 will also work to give support for Rejackal. But having that support in both the layers, which is in different layers, it is a protocol which is accessing. If the file system below that does not support Rejackal, they cannot interop. So there are two ways to achieve it. If the lower file systems can have the complete Rejackal support, both NFS-v4 and Samba can use that. Or else, the best way to provide right now is support to Gluster to have that support. The Gluster layer can implement the functionality of Rejackal, and even though the lower file system may or may not have it, and as a different file system gives support for Rejackal, we can use inherently the file system support for implementing Rejackal in that. So the Andreas is working with various the file system team to provide support for Rejackal. He already has patches for ext4. He's sending I think Fedora Niels is updated the packages. I'm not sure by next week.
Yeah, so Fedora 22 has the Rejackal user space package, the library, the binaries, which would set the extended attributes in the file system. So there's no kernel support in Fedora yet, but Samba, Ganesha and Gluster can use user space libraries already. They are available for Fedora 22, which is in beta now, should be released very soon.
So basically,
maybe just a very brief comment. So you mentioned Andreas. That's Andreas Bründerer from Austria. He's been working on this Rejackal since many years.
Yeah.
Also in contact with Samba because they were
I think
the main requesters for that.
I think he was working with Suse
for some time, yes, a little bit. And he recently joined Red Hat, like at the beginning of the year. And so we kept up we took up this plan again. And so our idea is that if we have Samba and NFS Ganesha both use these Rejackals and have Gluster as a user space file system implemented, that can be a case for the Linux kernel guys to adopt that, because they were up to now not willing to accept it. He has tried many times, and that would be a good case.
So now Rejackal provides you more functionality. So now you can directly use with the existing system. You need changes in the file system. So let's say that if you are implementing, you need a way to set Rejackal. You need a way to view Rejackal. So that utility is already worked by Andreas. So this utility is required from the file system side. Apart from that, he has already provided a library called Rejackal, which has all the functionalities required for parsing and storing and also enforcing Rejackals. So our plan is to implement the Rejackal part in Gluster. So we'll have a translator which will implement it. We'll use the Rejackal to store and parse information. So what we'll be using is that we'll be storing in the backend as an extended attribute all the Rejackals. And one of the problems with that is the lower line file system should support the Rejackal to store it in a system.Rejackal format. So we can store it in our own format and provide a complete transparent way of showing Rejackal to the clients, which is both NFS and Samba. So that's one of the plan. Okay, this is I was talking about the existing Gluster implementation right now. Yep.
Does that code also work on non-Linux stuff? For example, NetBSD or OS X? I'm thinking client side.
Client side.
Yeah, because the client would have to interpret what's on the.
Okay. Client side means we are talking about views.
Yeah, okay.
So fuse, I'll come back to the fuse part.
Okay.
The fuse requires some changes because fuse talks with the VFS layer and also has a client-side support needed. So I'll come back to that. And so basically it's like this. So fuse layer, you need first of all the tools to set and read rechackle. So that is the tools like set, rechackle, and get rechackle. These are the commands which can be given. So that needs to be there. Then also the VFS layer should understand this and pass it to the fuse module. And then if that support is there, then we can make use of this. So if we don't have that, so we have to use the existing POSIX mechanism, at least for now. And then once we have a working model where both NFS and Samba will work together, and by that time parallelly, fuse support can also come in. So, so we should be ready for that time when this happens. So anyway, Andreas is pushing very hard to all so that file system changes are going in. So I think that is going to happen soon. So this is a step forward where we can provide, even though some of the file system does not support recycle, we can still provide a consistent view. All the POSIX compliant file systems.
Yeah, so note that, for example, NetBSD does not support echoes at all.
Didn't
There are
know
no
that.
POSIX echoes. I doubt they will look into other kind of echoes. FreeBSD does support POSIX echoes. They have support for NFS version 4 echoes in the local file systems.
Okay.
So they don't really need rich echoes because they have something that is very similar. So yeah, on FreeBSD you need to make some changes on the brick side, on the server side.
Yeah,
Clients should
I'm just thinking about
maybe
client side. I'm thinking OSX client side when we get around to getting revitalising that particular effort.
So yeah, so this is the current setup right now. We have the cluster support the POSIX, which is enabled by the mountain. You can say. So we are planning to move to a different state and support reachable. So right now, as I said, NFS all uses different angles, so we need a common layer. So reachable provides one step closer towards multi-protocol. So some of the things what we're considering is the cluster can support either POSIX, ACL or reachable, but not both. So we can't have a system where I say that cluster supports both POSIX and reachable. It should be either reachable or POSIX.
Is this per volume or for the whole Gluster project?
It should be for both.
Okay, cool.
So the backend file system, we can say that it supports POSIX or use, let's say, it supports reachable, but you cannot say that it's a combination of both. And also, the thing is that we already have storage and it's already using POSIX. So now when we say enable reachable, that means a migration is needed. That means when you read something, it should have reachable already there. Or we need to have a gradual migration that whenever you access it, you change it to reachable. Or when you're setting it, you change it to reachable. So
Could you do it like a self-heal, like it does it on access?
Yeah. So because one way you can do is that you scroll through the file system and fix everything.
Yeah.
So that is one way. Or while access, you keep on modifying. So and the thing is that this is a one-way thing because POSIX has a lesser part and reachable has a more richer part. So once you convert it to reachable, converting back is a
It's
little
not good, yeah.
So if you change something, you cannot convert it back. So Andreas has suggested few ways by which we can try it. So one of the ways is that you don't store it, but in the layer where we are implementing things, we temporarily use the reachable and take decision on that so that people can try it how reachable works.
I think you're wrong about the can't convert it back. I know what you mean when you say this has the lesser, this has the more, right? So when you go from ABC to ABCDEF, you can go back if that state there is exactly what you would have converted it across from.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about that.
Okay,
one.
cool.
I'm
Okay.
talking about the case where you have more.
Okay.
Right? If you are
Oh, yeah. Both is not going to work.
Already
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
So the case if you are already there and migrated on that and you're using rich hacker, that means you change the state.
Yeah.
So now going back means you lose your information which you have added in the rich hacker part.
Yep.
So if you're not changing anything and you're just using that, you may come back.
Cool.
But ideally system we can work on that where we can have a minimal layer where we can try it out how rich hacker works and then move to a migration mode. The second part, what I'm trying to implement is that we may use a file system because now rich hacker is there which provides validation part. So instead of going that way, the first step would be to use ext4 which already has a validation. So instead of I'm doing my validation, I'll just let the file system do the validation and I can provide the functionality and test it and say that okay, at least the rich hacker part is working. So once I have decided that, so I can have a test cases to validate the rich hacker works. Then I can move to my own validation which is done by the cluster layer. So I can have proven test cases which proves that rich hacker works. And whatever the migration I have done or validation I have done is also correct. So planning to take it in phased manner.
Yeah.
So that ext4 support is in the experimental patches?
It's in the experimental patches. Yeah. So I will just try to play with that and work on it.
So this is not something we will be running up a Jenkins VM for soon.
Yeah.
So we won't be making a Jenkins VM for this or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. This sounds like the kind of stuff that we would do regression testing of on a Jenkins VM. So, but it won't be yet because the patches are experimental.
Yeah. So this is just the first case where I can try
development.
Yeah, so I can at least have my test cases ready and then can. So other part which is going is that we are mostly adding everything into an extended attributes. Extended attributes have limited space.
Yeah.
So the more we put it, I think many of the features are now adding things to extended attributes. So this is a bottleneck kind of thing right now. So that is also a concern. So might have to address it a little bit. So basically most of the things I've already taken from the Andreas pages. Andreas has a wiki which has the details, he has a paper which is written on rich hacker, how it is done and other things. So yeah, and that's it.
Cool.
Questions?